Vice President Joe Biden is facing backlash for his comments about the black community, and President Trump's new attack on Biden is being called deeply personal. This morning, the topics of faith and race dominating the campaign trail with less than 3 months until the election. Presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is clarifying his Thursday comments when he seemed to suggest the black community lacks diversity of thought.
What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about.
That is incredible, and I don't know what's going on with him.
It's the second time since May that Biden is apologizing for a comment about race.
He's following the radical left agenda. No religion, no anything. Hurt the Bible, hurt God. He's against God, he's against guns.
And two of the great artists of our time representing the groundbreaking legacy of hip-hop in America, LL Cool J. By the way, that man's got biceps bigger than my thighs. I think I'm going to put you all back in chains. I'm going to put you all back in chains.
Till November, we got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. Come on. Take a look at the record. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. If you want 6 more inches between you and the seat in front, you pay more money. But you don't know it until you purchase your ticket. Look, folks, these are junk fees. They're unfair and they hit marginalized Americans the hardest, especially low-income folks and people of color. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it. We think, no, we're going to dumb it down. They can do anything anybody else can do, give it a shot.
Personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of 2 United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing.
Look, everything I've done in my career, I ran because of civil rights. I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights. And those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
But Vice President Biden, do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America? Then.
No.
Do you agree?
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I opposed.
Well, there was a failure of states to integrate public schools in America. I was part of the second class to integrate Berkeley, California public schools almost 2 decades after Brown v. Board of Education.
Because your city council made that decision. It was a local decision.
So that's where the federal government must step in. That's why we have the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. That's why we need to pass the Equality Act. That's why we need to pass the ERA. Because
lows in unemployment, particularly, and I've focused on this my whole career, particularly for African Americans and Hispanic workers and veterans. You know, the workers without high school diplomas, the lowest unemployment rate in 70 years. The workers without high school diplomas, the lowest unemployment rate in 70 years for women now. By the way, when I got elected, I promised I wanted an administration that looked like America. I got more women in the cabinet than any president has ever in history. I got more women than men in the cabinet.
In 47 years, he never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill, the super predators.
Your response to that, Vice President?
My response in government, 47 years, he never did a thing, except in 1994, when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He said it, super predators. And they have never lived that down. 1994, your crime bill.
1994 crime bill, it did contribute to mass incarceration in our
was signed by President Bill Clinton. This was a pretty significant bill at the time, and President Clinton and Senator Biden at the time were right that the bill was significant.
The most significant federal effort to deal with violent crime in America.
Stood up and used that tough on crime, phony rhetoric.
That bill was a huge mistake.
There's no question that that crime bill contributed to America's mass incarceration problem.
1994 crime bill, we had a gigantic epidemic in America of violence, particularly in African American communities. The notion was overwhelmingly supported. It was supported by the Black Caucus in the United States Senate by and large.
And
Wing, 10 shots.
Dr. Martin, how was your anniversary?
Saying that Secretary of State Hillary Clinton fainted from dehydration after an illness and got a concussion. She has canceled one trip, and ABC senior foreign affairs correspondent Martha Raddatz now has the latest on her condition and joins us from Washington. Martha.
Diane, this was a pretty serious concussion, although she is starting to feel a bit better. She was homesick from a stomach virus after a long trip overseas. She apparently was so dehydrated she fainted, and when that happens, you obviously don't brace yourself for the fall, so she hit her head hard. She was not taken to the hospital, but when she exhibited many of the signs of concussion, dizziness, headache, she was given all the appropriate tests to rule out anything more serious. I am told she was on an IV drip for a period of time and had someone looking after her for those first few days. I'm also told the secretary is frustrated by this and would love to get back to work, but when you get a concussion, you need to rest your brain. She will also be unable to testify about Benghazi this week, although she will likely do that at some point in the future. But for now, Diane, it is all about resting.